Hello viewers of The Pioneer, how are you doing? I hope you're healthy and well. What is a struggle conducted by deception? It is the art of both applying tricks and disturbing the other side's tricks. If you know your enemy well and can analyze their moves, your chances of success increase. Otherwise, you may face great disasters. So why can't Russia do this? More precisely, how does the Ukrainian army do it? In addition to its successes across the front line, the Ukrainian army carefully follows the Russian army and makes important moves. There was an operation conducted by the Russian army last year, Operation Reverse Flag. In this operation, the traps of the Russian soldiers wearing the clothes of the Ukrainian soldiers were successfully solved by Ukrainian soldiers. Russians tried a similar tactic again. So what are the developments related to this incident? Let's analyze. As the Pioneer team, we continue to bring you all the developments about the Russia-Ukraine war. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications in order not to miss our daily map reports and reports on the agenda. You can also support me and my team by using the super thanks button below the videos. Thank you in advance for your support. The Pioneer reports. The strong resistance of the Ukrainian army on the front line has put the Russian army in a difficult situation. The Russian army is no longer able to make progress, and this situation worries the Russian war leadership. Moreover, the increasing losses are causing a great demoralization in the Russian army. The Russian war leadership is thinking about how to answer to Putin and knows that Putin's angers must be calmed down. Otherwise, Russian commanders could face severe penalties. It was during a discussion on this very issue that one of the Russian commanders came up with what he thought was a brilliant idea. However, this idea has been tried before and ended in a great disaster. Nevertheless, the Russian commander decided to try the idea again. The idea was quite simple. Ukrainian soldiers captured by the Russian army were being held in Russia. Personnel of the Russian intelligence service, the Federal Security Service, and interrogated them and obtained critical information from the several of them. Names, duty stations, families, hometowns, all this information was collected from the captured Ukrainian soldiers. The Federal Security Service personnel were quite confident that with this information, it would be possible to infiltrate the Ukrainian army. The commander who came up with the idea was also confident. They believed that the operation would be successful. What they did not know, however, was the vigilance of the Ukrainian soldiers. Members of the Russian Federal Security Service were to infiltrate from the northern Ukraine and present themselves as prisoners to Ukrainian border guards. Their plan was quite simple. First, they would launch a heavy attack on the border guards and destroy all lines of the communication. This would buy time for the Russian troops to reach the area. This strategy was aimed at opening a new front that could increase Russia's strength on the other fronts. When Russian Federal Security Service personnel approached the Ukrainian border, they managed to make contact with Ukrainian soldiers. They were wearing Ukrainian military uniforms. To prove that they were prisoners, they hit each other to make it look like they had been beaten. The Ukrainian border guards were surprised when they noticed the approaching Ukrainian soldiers. They immediately opened fire in the air and accordance with the rules of engagement and were ordered to stop. The Russian Federal Security Service personnel obeyed by standing their ground and placing their hands on their heads. Two Ukrainian border guards then approached them. The Russian Federal Security Service personnel knew Ukrainian quite well, so there were no language problem. One of the personnel of the Russian Federal Security Service had taken the identity card and belongings of the Ukrainian soldier named Andriy Marchenko. A Ukrainian border guard approached them and asked them who they were and where they were coming from. The Russian Federal Security Service personnel, claiming to be Andriy Marchenko, replied, "We are Ukrainian soldiers. We have been prisoners of the Russian army for 3 months. They tortured us a lot, and we found an opportunity and escaped from the camp where they kept us. Now we are here and returned to our country and are about to go to the headquarters. We need to be handed over to our commanders. We came back to fight against Russians." A Ukrainian soldier listened to the Russian Federal Security Service personnel telling them that they should not move. He then reached to the border post and described what had happened. He informed the Ukrainian soldiers at the post that Andriy Marchenko and other Ukrainians captured soldiers had arrived. The Russian Federal Security Service personnel had each taken the names of the different Ukrainian prisoners. Ukrainian soldiers at the outpost began to analyze them names. When the names given by the Russian soldiers dressed in Ukrainian military uniforms were analyzed, it became clear that they had indeed been captured by the Russian army. However, one of the soldiers was a little bit uncomfortable because he recognized the name Andriy Marchenko from somewhere. After thinking for a long time, he remembered it. He had fought with Marchenko in previous conflicts. Marchenko had saved the Ukrainian soldier's life. He had even been wounded in the face while running to his rescue, and his wounded hand left a scar on Marchenko's face. The soldier contacted the Ukrainian soldier, who was among the disguised Russian Federal Security Service personnel. He asked him whether Marchenko had a scar on his right eye and asked him not to give any sign when he asked this question. The Ukrainian soldier, who was with the Russian soldier claiming to be Andriy Marchenko and others, approached them, pretending to be the conversation with them, and he carefully examined the identity of the alleged Marchenko. Meanwhile, the Ukrainian soldier at the police station was waiting. The radio was switched and he could hear all the conversations. The station officer asked his colleague to ask where Marchenko was stationed. Marchenko, who claimed to be the member of the Russian Federal Security Service, was mistaken in his answer. The Ukrainian soldier at the police station told his friend to be careful and that these people were spies. Marchenko and his companions were told, "Welcome to our country. Now we will take you to the headquarters." The personnel of the Russian Federal Security Service were inwardly rejoicing, but in fact they were that ones who fallen into a trap, because the Ukrainian border guards had already figured out the trap. The Ukrainian border guards had completed their preparations. As they approached the border crossing, the Russian Federal Security Service personnel suddenly pulled out their weapons and tried to open fire. However, the Ukrainian border guards were prepared and responded immediately, neutralizing the Russian Federal Security Service personnel. 18 Russian Federal Security Service personnel were allegedly destroyed. Another Russian operation ended in failure, and the vigilance of the Ukrainian border guards disturbed the tactics of the Russian army. Russian commanders believed that their plan would work, but they were wrong. The Ukrainian soldiers were very alert and attentive. Their patriotism kept them on their toes at all the times. What do you think? What do you think is the reason for the successes of the Ukrainian army? How do you assess the operation carried out by the personnel of the Russian Federal Security Service? Do you think that the Russian commanders are unable to strategize? Let me know in the comments, as I read and I care about all your comments.